The Royal Navy's first Type 23 frigate to be scrapped, the former HMS Monmouth, was towed out of Portsmouth this morning to be scrapped in Turkey. Conceived as a Cold War submarine hunter, HMS Monmouth was the sixth ship of her class and built by shipbuilder Yarrow on the Clyde, and entered service in 1993. The Black Duke served around the world, from the North Atlantic to the Gulf, and sailed around the world in 2007. Monmouth's last major deployment was in 2018 when she accompanied HMS Queen Elizabeth on a Westland deployment to the U.S. She sailed for the last time in April 2019 and was laid up ahead of a planned LifeX refit. She was eventually abandoned as a cost-saving measure and is the only ship of her class not to have undergone a mid-life upgrade. She is languishing at Devonport, briefly serving as a port training ship. She is being used by replacement crews preparing to take over the Type 23 frigate stationed in the Gulf. There were rumors that the ship might be sold to Greece as part of a deal to sell Type 31 frigates to the Greek Navy. But this is highly unlikely, given the poor condition of her materials. The ship was towed to Portsmouth in 2021 and handed over to the DSRO for final scrapping. The ship never received a proper decommissioning ceremony and was officially withdrawn from Royal Navy service on June 30, 2021. The ship's bell was handed over to the Mayor of Monmouth in Wales for safekeeping, having been aboard the ship for the entirety of her 28 years of service, during which time she sailed over 500,000 miles and visited over 200 ports. At least 2,000 sailors served aboard the ship during her service. The long list of Royal Navy warships and RFAs that have been scrapped in the last 2 decades have mostly ended up at the Leyal scrapyard in Aliaga on the Turkish Aegean coast, and Monmouth is no exception. The UK has no facilities where ships can be scrapped, largely because health, safety, and environmental regulations make it financially unviable, although the price of scrap steel has risen in the last decade. Monmouth is the first of all the Type 23s to be scrapped. The 3 older Type 23s sold to Chile are still going strong. Scrapping a warship that is more than 30 years old would not be at all unusual if there was a replacement ready to take its place in the fleet. The former HMS Montrose, currently sailing in Portsmouth Harbor, is likely to end up next to the scrapyard, followed by HMS Westminster, Argyle, and Northumberland.